What's up, everyone? We are back and working on this Tacoma project. I apologize, I skipped a few steps as far as prepping the cab. Excuse me. So that is actually what we are doing today. We are prepping the cab before we start the chassis. So, as you can see, we did some work here. The floor is cut out, the firewall is cut out, the back is cut out. The back might be cut a little bit higher. I really like that point right there, but we'll see later. So here's what it looks like, everything that was cut out. You have the complete floor. I cut it in two different sections just because it was a little bit easier for me. And then the firewall. Those are the doors from the previous episode. And so this is what we have here. So what I'm working on today, I'll show you, is I'm doing the prep work on the cab at the bottom before I start the actual chassis. So what it is I really wanted these tubes to be as further out as possible. I know I'm kind of doing some work that some people probably wouldn't even do just to gain that 1 inch. Because to me, you know, every inch counts. No, just kidding anyway. So as you can see, I have it kind of mocked up right here as to where this tube is going to sit. And you can tell right there, it would obviously hit that. So let me go around and I'll show you what I'm doing. So right here, what I got to do is I'm going to cut this out and then cut all that out, make a plate. And then, because the other thing is I also going to do a triangulation here once these are together. Over here on this side, you can see I started this side. So I cut this out. These I cut slits in and bent back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-weld these together before I put the plate on, just so these are reinforced. And the plate kind of go like that, something like that. So that's one of them. So I got to do 4. I'm going to have to do 2 on the back, and then I'm going to have to do the fronts and figure those out. So that's kind of what I'm tackling today. I wanted to prep this cab before I put it on the big table and start the chassis. This is not the fun work. Once the chassis starts, that's the fun work. So what I was talking about back here, this I think was gonna have to be cut up here. That's where I originally drew the line. However, I really like to leave that support if I can, but I'll see where I'm gonna end up because I really like this little support here that's already there. So that's kind of where I'm at, guys. So let me finish this up and hopefully soon we can start a chassis. That's actually the fun part. I hate doing this part. This is just dirty and... Alright, so here I have the left side tacked up and I have some bars or some tubes just mocked up. Now these are actually not the right size. These are just scraps I had laying around, but it gives me plenty good idea. So you see how this tube will actually tuck under this boxed area, and I wanted to keep this box area because it's really rigid. But the tube on the back for the main hoop actually goes about right there. So this is perfect, and the actual tube size I'm using is a little bit bigger, so it's going to come closer to that wall. So I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out. The front's going to be a little bit trickier because I got to cut all this. This one's a lot bigger. It's going to excuse me, require a lot more work. So, and then a couple little tricks I'll show you guys. Let me remove all this crap. Oh, can't do this with 1/2. So when you're doing things like this, obviously this is pretty flat, and this I was able to, you know, make a little bend in. But once you get to here, obviously there's quite the curve. So what you can do here is you can start by tacking, like holding in place, tacking. And then what I do is I hammer it. I just gently hammer it down to where it's, you know, hitting the other metal, and then work your way around. So, you know, hold it down here, tack, hold it here, tack, hold it here, tack, and then massage this all the way down. And then I worked my way back here and then kind of met up here. So that's all tacked. And then what you're gonna wanna do, I really hate welding on old ass metal. I actually hate MIG welding. So that one over there, as you can see, I do a little bit of it at a time, and then I go do something else and then go back to it. You don't wanna get crazy and just weld the whole thing. You're gonna warp a lot of things. This is too thin. So this is where I'm at. Quite a bit of progress. Really excited about it. Originally, I thought about just cutting this whole thing out and then putting a plate all the way down. But like I said, I really wanted to keep this whole boxed area. It's really rigid, good structure. So I'm pretty happy with it. Here's the front. This one's all tacked up. As you can see, this is what was cut off from the cab. That's the old one. This one is ready to weld. This one on this side is pretty much done. It's all welded up, maybe cleaned up a little bit, and it'll be ready. This is kind of a quick little mock-up of how it's gonna sit. That's for that A-pillar to go all the way up and around, back to there. So you can kind of see kind of a rough idea of how it's gonna go. Came out good, pretty stoked. Got to weld that one, and then while I'm here, I'm gonna take a wire wheel and clean up all that glue around there, clean up the cab while I'm here. All right, so went ahead and cleaned up one side. Looks a lot better all cleaned up. This one's all done. So as you can see, cleaned up side versus side that hasn't been cleaned up. Huge difference with the glue off and just cleaning it all up. So that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. So now we can start on the chassis and start on the fun stuff. Now that the prep work is done. That's it. Thanks, everyone. Right, so it's been a few days. I kind of changed my mind on the plans of the truck. So everything that I just showed you kind of got scrapped. The whole idea got scrapped. So what changed is I kept going back and forth if I wanted this cab to be able to be removable or not. Kind of decided, even though I'm probably never going to remove it, I wanted to make it removable. So in order to do that, I actually ended up cutting all of this box out. If you remember, it folds down. So for where I wanted the bottom tube to sit, it wouldn't have been able to lift off. It would have hit some of the bars. So I cut all this box out on both sides, and then this tube will sit about there, so it gives me almost a finger length. So when we want to lift this cab off, we'll have clearance. So we just wanted to show that, you know, not everything goes as how you want it sometimes. So now the next thing I gotta do is make some plates right here and weld these back so it's fully boxed again and structural. So the good thing is I actually sell these A-pillar gussets on my website. You can buy these for your roll cage on the A-pillar. A lot of people use them, and it just so happens that these are the perfect size, which means it saves me a lot of work. They're not as long, so I'm just gonna cut and put two together and just weld them and fuse them together. But it saves me a lot of time from actually making this really long piece, because I don't really like cutting holes by hand, and these are all laser cut, so that's cool. So again, change of plans. We got the front done and the back, but I went ahead and just chopped everything, chopped all this out, cleaned it all up, ready to weld. So now I'm gonna make these guys and then weld them on here, and it should look pretty good. All right, so to make my life easier, instead of making this ginormous plate, I took two of the ones that I have on the shelf, and all I did was fuse them together and kind of did a quick blend. So as you can see on the back, the weld. So now the next step is pretty much just putting it up, and then there's areas where I'm gonna have to trim down, like right here, how it dips in a little. So I just gotta perfectly trim it to match all around, and then weld it up. So that's the next step. All right, so here's the piece all fitted up. Starting to weld it. As you can see, it worked out great, just grabbing those off the shelf gussets. So right here, there's a tiny little gap right there. I could probably throw in like a little piece of filler in there, or I might even be able to just close it with the weld. Not sure yet. So really excited that I changed the plans. I really love how it came out. The only downfall is you're not even gonna see most of this, but it looks super cool. I mean, you might see like the foot area over here, but the front's gonna be covered by a tube. That's gonna be covered by a tube. This area is gonna be covered by a seat. But oh well, it is what it is. So these are all welded up. I am really happy that I changed my mind and ended up doing this. So I really love how it looks. Both sides are done. The only thing is I gotta clean up some of the welds under here, but that's when next time whenever I pick the cab off this table to where I can get to them, and then, you know, just do a final cleanup, kind of try to blend them a little more. But I'm really happy with how they came out. Really stoked. Like I said, the only crappy part is you're not going to see most of this work. All right, so that's a wrap for today's episode. So hopefully next episode we will start the chassis, the fun stuff. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe so we can keep this channel going. Throw some comments in there, likes, anything to help us get this channel active. Thank you guys.